And later the table. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So I'll ask Stefan Keiser to come up. We're very lucky across all of Victoria and driving change. He's going to tell us what's been happening in the space and what the changes are.
Thanks, Jenny. In preparing for today, I thought I'd reflect back sort of 3 to 5 years ago. Lockie Campbell from the CMA and I were going around talking to a variety of land care people around Hume region primarily. We probably went to 18 land care group meetings, community meetings like this, and talked to people. And some people were saying, the bloody deer are out of control. Probably everyone's saying the deer are out of control now. So, you know, the problem was pretty defined then, and I'm not sure if it's significantly different. But the sorts of things that people talked to us about then were the laws weren't okay. You know, the deer should be burned, this should be changed, that should be changed, I can't process deer, I can't do this, I can't get access. There were lots of issues with the laws. People said there's no plan. We really don't have a plan what we're doing for deer at a statewide level. And there were lots of suggestions around at the time. A lot of people said us at the time as well, we haven't got the right tools. You're just mucking around with what you do now. The New South Wales people are doing it better. This group's doing it better. You need to change this, you need to change that. So there were lots of suggestions on the tools to support fixing the problem. A lot of people had misconceptions. You know, if I'm a recreational hunter, can I drive up that road? Well, if the road's on the correct alignment, yep. Lots of people say, well, I'm locking the gate to keep people out. There are a lot of issues in regards to those sorts of things. Knowledge. People said, I don't know what the law is. Can I shoot them under spotlight? Can I do this? Can I do that? How far can I clear? What are all the things? And there were lots of knowledge gaps. And I think there's still a fair few knowledge gaps in relation to a lot of things that we talk about here. There were bad behaviours. You know, there's always a proportion of people in our community who want to do the wrong thing and stuff it up for the good people. You know, I've lived in the northeast all my life, and I've never ever had an issue with getting onto private land. I'll go and talk to the owner, introduce myself, show them my licence, talk to them about where I live and what I'm on about, give them my phone number, and ask them, can I come through your land to go to the public land, or can I go through your land to go down to the creek fishing? I've never been refused. A few people have been a bit wary when I rock up in my camo gear. I've got my gun under my arm, and I knock on the door. Usually the result I get is, what are you doing here? I've had a gut full of you blokes in this area. I see lots of places where I want to go, and there's always been bad behaviour in that area. But my reputation and who I am and what I want to do makes a difference. I think some people might say, well, he's a cheeky young bugger, shoot him off. Who can help? You know, when we started having these conversations, a lot of people said it's a government problem. It's your deer, you need to come and take it all away. They're eating my grass. Yeah, okay. You know, I was thinking about driving up this morning. There's 11,500 kilometres of public state forest interface to private land. Put parks in, there's probably 25,000 kilometres. I hear about fences, and I did some maths, and I think it was $5,000 million to pay for the fence to stop the deer coming on there. And then I'm listening this morning about we need to get more money into the hospital system. You know, $5,000 million just for fencing, and then that's only one of the issues we've got in the community. So I know it's a big problem, and there's a big cost associated with that. You know, I heard Peter on the radio yesterday saying we haven't got money in the deer program. He's right, we don't. But 5,000 million just to keep them out, and they usually go through the fence. So there's been lots of inquiries, parliamentary inquiries. I think I read about 190 submissions into the parliamentary inquiry, and I've been on them in the past where we've had to respond to weed issues, and there were 42 recommendations. And I work for government, and I like to see some outcomes as a consequence of all that paperwork. When I reflect back, and if you pull out that, probably the weed inquiry, the 42, there's probably 37 of them that nothing's been done. And there'll be another inquiry on something else next week, and it'll be a joint parliamentary thing, and there'll be lots of learned people get into the room and have all the answers, but it doesn't often change a lot. And I work for government. I'm going on leave in a couple of weeks. I can probably say what I like, but look, the reality is, no, I can't, because I'm working today. The reality is that, you know, the sorts of things that we do as a community can make the difference. Not the inquiries, the reviews, the studies. And this is probably the most important thing. For the last 18 months, I've been talking to a lot of people. We've written a plan in relation to the peri-urban area. We've got 2 more plans to write, one east to the Hume Highway, one west to the Hume Highway. It's a piece of paper. It actually doesn't do anything. It describes what we want to do. It's not until we get out in the bush and pull the trigger that that deer drops or runs away. It's not until we get in a helicopter and go and shoot a heap of deer that they drop. Or it's not about, you know, it's not about what we talk about, it's how we change the laws to allow hunters to do more, professional people to process more, landholders to have a better say about how we fix it, you know, something as simple as fencing, you know, fencing's really easy. You know, what do? We push the line 4 metres either side of the line, and we push it uphill into the public land. It creates a windrow. Next time we get a big fire, what happens to our fence? It probably gets burnt down. You know, is the fence line clearing 10 metres, 50 metres? Never enough. It's about, so there's some of the things I thought about 3 to 5 years ago prior to coming today. So what's been happening? There's 2 documents, Sustainable Hunting Action Plan and the Protecting Victoria's Biodiversity, that supported the development of the Victorian Deer Control Strategy and the regional plans. There's a long-term vision that deer are not significantly having impact on environment. Agriculture, which a lot of people are interested about. Traditional owner values, and we don't often think about that in a lot of the country we work in, but there are many areas where deer are really having a huge impact on traditional owner values. And public safety. You know, I've done a bit of research on the amount of accidents on roads and how many deer get knocked, and about 2% of the 8% that animals cause the accident, about 2% of those are deer. You drive on lots of roads, we all know those roads that we don't drive on late at night because, you know, you're going to get deer coming out left, right and centre. We know there is significant issue for safety, and they will become an increasing issue with safety. Where I live in Wangaratta, when you come in on the Ovens Highway, it's only probably 200 metres from houses. You know, deer get collided with vehicles almost in the middle of town. You've probably seen the stuff in the peri-urban space where deer are moving right into the suburbs. You know, they're on the footy grounds in the middle of suburbia. I mean, you don't have to go far here, you can probably get a thermal or a spotlight and find a deer, but when they're in the urban areas, or in Wodonga, you know, they're down the drainage lines, they're all over the place. It's an issue. Obviously, the goals that we want to do is to try to work more effectively in partnerships, and that's where we're here today, to talk about what can we do together compared to what's Brett Conabear going to do to fix the problem. He's going to shoot a few deer, and I hope he shoots thousands. You know, and people like Peter talk about, oh, we've got over 1 million deer, or we're not sure how many we've got, but there's plenty out there. I watched the YouTube clip last night, a young bloke just over the border here somewhere, and he had about 10 deer in about 10 minutes. And I thought, well, I wonder where that spot is. But any place that we go down the road here, you're going to find deer. You know, I know Brett's probably seen 100 one night. You know, you could probably tell me about how many you've got. They're streaming down out of the mountains. Are we going to stop that? Hopefully we'll reduce it, but we're not going to stop it. You know, Elaine's been working, she's going to talk to us about programs on national parks later. Lots of those things make a difference, but they're not going to change it black and white, and that's probably a critical thing for us. I might move on. Okay. So as I said, the peri-urban plans, we finished the one in around Melbourne, lots of suburban issues. We do have some of the rural issues in that plan area. We talk to the community about those. We've got the east and west plans that we're working on now. We've had one meeting. The east plan, which involves this area, we've split it into two working groups, one for the old Hume region, the Dewlp and the Gippsland region, and they'll work separately and combine into one plan. They're meant to be completed by caretaker time for government, so October, so we've got a fairly tall order. We've got a template that we've used from the peri-urban plan, so you know the bits that we consider. So that's the plan for the plans. So the way we're doing that, we've got the Deer Advisory Committee at a state level said, look, the parts that build the plans for the regional plans, tick, they were happy with those, massaged the stuff a little bit. We've got multiple meetings, that's the sort of timeline, finished by September. We've got a professional writer. I wrote the peri-urban plan and facilitated it. It was a heap of work, so someone said, Keiser, you're not doing a good job. We need to get a professional, not an amateur like you. So we said, okay, we took the feedback and we're getting a professional. We'll see how much difference it is now. The sorts of layers that we're using is biodiversity. So where are the important bits in the bush? If we do some control at those spots, how many things benefit? And the mapping that we've done at a statewide level describes where the most things get benefit from deer control. You know, people will say, oh, if you come out tonight, Tree Fern Gully up the top creek, the deer are flogging it. You know, 10 years ago, the tree ferns were everywhere, now there's nothing, they're really flogged. Yes, that's true. But when we look at the statewide perspective, we look at where the most benefit's going to be received from the most animals. So that's the biodiversity values. The ag values, we've got land use mapped at a statewide level. We'll put that into the map and you know, you've got say 45 different land uses. Are they all the same? You know, 5 kilometres from the interface of the state forest out into freehold land. Are the deer having the same impact there? Maybe not. So as part of the development of plans, we're talking to people to say, where is it that they have the most impact? Yeah, they eat grass, but if you've got, say, a cherry farm and they're coming in and they're destroying, 10 rows of trees in one night, you're losing income for years and years and years. So we're going to community to say, where are those bits that are the most important to you? So that's one of the layers. Traditional owner values, they're mapped at the statewide level, so we talk to people about those components. Traditional owners are really sensitive about providing that information, so it's more at a macro level. It's not until we get to a local delivery level where the traditional owners might work with land managers and say, look, this creek line is really important to us for whatever reason, or this hill, or that vegetation, or this landscape, or this space. So we build those in as part of the layers. Accident information, where do we have all those accidents? There are some data sets that we're using, but as we come to build the east and the west plans, we want to talk to people and say, what do you know? You know, is it the road is the most accident-prone road in the area? We can shade that in and put it as more important. You know, usually if you go through places late at night, you're going to find deer on the road there at any old time of the night. You know, once you get down around the Hume Weir, maybe not so many, so it's about bringing that in with local knowledge. Local governments have stuff that we don't know about, that are about where they pick up animals on roadsides, and they do create some data sets across the state that we'll build in for the development of the plans. So yeah, that's the plans. If you want to look at the plan, you can go online. That's the site at that web address, and you can just go and look at the summary. If you don't want to read 65 pages, I wouldn't. You know, there's a fair bit of rubbish there, but you know, 2 or 3 pages, you get a quick feel for what the plan looks like, what the priorities are, where the locations are that we're going to invest, and that's fairly critical for the future, because the amount of money we have to invest, the government said it's gave us $1 million for the peri-urban, and then 18.25 million over 4 years for the rest of the state. Crystallise that down, it's about 4 million if you average it over. If you put the 4 million over the area of the state, forget what the kilometres squared of public land is, but it's huge. So we really do need to say, where is it that we're going to get the best buck? Is it the Narrowing Valley, or is it, you know, Bright, or is it, you know, Tumbarumba? That's across the border. Wherever it is, so we need to have something that assists us as a community. We won't make the decisions, it will be the collective group that makes those decisions. It won't be set in concrete. The plans are in place for 5 years. A few people said, oh, you haven't shown where the deer are here, the map's wrong. Well, that's okay, as the information adds to it, we'll refine that. So because this is online, it won't be set in concrete. So if you want to go there and have a look at the detail, that's where it is. Okay, what are the sorts of things that we need to take account is legislation. And if you like legislation, you can go online and you can read the Wildlife Act, and you can read the Meat Act, and you can find out the Firearms Act. When I started 44 years ago, we had to read them and understand them and work out where they are, and you get a bit of a feeling for legislation once you work on it. But you know, probably most people don't want to know, read the legislation. What's the bottom line? But there is a heap of legislation here if you want to get into it. Deer status under the Wildlife Act. They're not vermin, they're protected wildlife. They're unprotected on freehold land, so on your property in the valley, you can shoot them with as many as you like. However, you've got to use methods that are humane to kill them. So you can't run them over with a 4-wheel drive. If that's what you want to do. And I've seen people do stuff like that with wild dogs in the past, but maybe not deer. But so you need to kill them humanely. So there are some things. So who can shoot them? Where can they be shot? Okay, we can shoot fallow, sambar, red, hog deer in certain areas under certain conditions. Public land, they're protected or unprotected. So currently, if Elaine wants to go and shoot some deer in the park, she's got to have an authority to control wildlife, which you used to have to get to shoot them on private land. You don't need that anymore now. We're going to remove that so she can do that work without all that administrative burden. It's not quite there yet, it will be soon. For public, the other sorts of public land, state forest, I still need to get that authority to control wildlife right now. Once we get the plans in place, the ability to control deer on public land will be a lot easier even in forest, the same as it will be for park. Does that mean we'll control deer on every state forest or every Dewlp managed piece of land in the state? Not likely. We do some really good work now, but in the future we'll be focusing on where we can make the biggest difference. And in some locations, I'll pick Western Victoria, there are places there that are 20 years behind you are up here. So there 20 years ago, they've got a few, 10 or 15 deer, and now we're going for time there. You know, they're sort of 20 years behind us, and they've got a few deer, and you talk to a few people, and I've pulled up in places like the Strathbogies out of Manila, and on an intersection and talked to a cocky and said, "Is there any deer up here?" And he sort of looks at you, "Oh, there could be be a few. And, you know, people are a bit guarded in telling us, but they don't know what you know. So some of those locations where there's bugger all here, we're going to put the money in and knock them on the head. Will we get rid of them altogether? Probably not, but they won't get a chance to get to the same levels they have here. In saying that, there will be locations up here that gets the investment for good reason, and we've done some of those investments through the Bushfire Biodiversity Response investment. $64 million invested on protecting things, which included deer, and there's been some really good work on aerial stuff that I'm sure Elaine will talk to us about later on. Okay, so to control wildlife, talked about that. Lots of people say, if I want to go to Lynn's place to shoot a deer for her, what do I need? Well, I need a driver's licence to get there, unless I walk next door and I don't have one. I need a firearms licence, no question, with the right category of firearms. Do I need a game licence? No, I don't. No, I don't. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm aware of that, mate.
Yep, okay, so you don't have to have someone with a game licence. Does it mean
Crazy.
You can load up 16 deer and put them in the truck and take them down to the processors at how long and get a few bucks for them? No, it doesn't. So there's some things that you've got to have, but it's not quite the same as if you're doing other jobs. I might just jump through this supply chain I might cover. So what's happening on the ground? We've got some money, we've got some people that we're paying within parks and Dewlp and communities to look at deer as an issue. We're about to put some opportunities for community to apply for funding of the deer program in the peri-urban area. Once we've completed the east and west plans, that sort of funding will be available for other communities. So there's some dollars there. We've paid some staff. We support the ADA in doing some training of people. We support people like community groups in supporting staff to support knowledge gaps. We're paying for some research. We're obviously doing some shooting, ground-based and aerial. We pay for some fencing. We've just completed some master classes, so some of the new people in Dewlp and PV have better understanding of tools available, things like drones and mapping, aerial photography, how to helicopter shooting, a whole range of things, because there's still some new stuff out there, so we're trying to look at that. You might have heard about some roadside deterrents. There's a few being trialled in the northeast that emit flashing lights into the bush that hopefully push animals back. So there's a range of things, and there will be increased investments over a period of time. I think that's me done.
Fantastic.
Any questions?
Well, I think we're going to put the questions at the end of the first three speakers, so, but I think that's pretty exciting. That masterclass sounds